Details on the weather. Here's Christopher Blanchett.
Thank you, Hayley. Well, still rather wet.
Capping air tax could be good for Scottish passengers by increasing the amount of direct international flights from here. But aviation experts are warning that it could impact badly on the northeast of England as passengers flock north to take advantage. Joined now by the Labour MSP James Kelly, who speaks on infrastructure and capital investment. What's Labour's view on this? You want it devolved but not changed?
I think this is a very interesting area. It's quite a complicated area, and I think we need to look at how airport passenger duty affects economic activity, particularly around airports, and also carbon emissions. And I think what is needed is a serious impact assessment on the effects of airport passenger duty so that we can take an informed view on the policy.
But you want it devolved but not changed?
I think first and foremost, and the report in relation to Newcastle makes this point, we need to be aware of the impacts across the UK. If one of the first acts of an independent Scotland is to put thousands of workers out of a job in Sunderland and Newcastle, then that is regrettable, to say the least.
But it would improve the situation in Scotland, wouldn't it? It would lead to more jobs and more income.
Well, I think the first thing that would happen is that in terms of a Scottish budget, there would be £275 million less in the budget.
Only if it was scrapped altogether, and the SNP is saying that they would cut it to 50%.
Even that would mean £135 million out of the budget. And the SNP need to tell us how many teachers would be reduced, how many less nurses we would have, and how many less houses would be completed. These are the impacts.
Well, Keith Brown has said that it would raise £200 million.
Well,
so actually it would be an improvement. There wouldn't be a cut.
Well, even that, based on the figure of 275 million, actually brings in less than the cut in the budget. And the way budgets operate, the budgets need to be set a year in advance, so the money would immediately come out of the budget. Even if you were going to see an increase in economic activity, that wouldn't happen immediately. And that would mean that we would need to take money out of local council budgets, and that would affect communities throughout Scotland. And that's a question on all these policies and independence. That's what the SNP need to answer. They need to tell us what the impacts are.
Well, Keith Brown would say he has done that half an hour ago, but on the specific subject of APD, are we to take it from this then that as a party, Labour approves of it and at the level it's at?
Well, Labour's position is that we believe that we need a serious impact assessment to look at the impact on economic activity and also carbon emissions. The SNP position on this is shambolic. One minister is saying that carbon emissions would be increased by the policy, and Keith Brown, you heard him earlier, saying that it would be reduced. They're all over the place. It's not just Labour that are saying this, it's Patrick Harvie and the Greens.
So you like it either because it contributes to the tax take and the paying down of the deficit, or because of carbon issues? Which is it?
I think you've got to look at the impact on both of these issues, and that's why you need to look at the impact across the United Kingdom. Of course, it's important to address some of the inconsistencies in it and to look at how you can boost airport traffic. But at the same time, you need to be... It's all very well passing the Climate Change Act and applauding it in Parliament, but you need to be wary of the policies that you're pursuing, and if they're going to increase carbon emissions, you need to take account of the impact of that.
Well, Paul Wheelhouse has said, and you know that because he said it in Parliament, that in fact they would take that on board and that they would have to seek to make cuts elsewhere. That's fair enough. There's nothing underhand about that. Yeah,
but that's not what Keith Brown said. He's trying to say that it would be reduced. You've got two ministers with inconsistent positions on it, and that's why the SNP need to be clearer about the impact on carbon emissions and the impact on the Scottish budget, because it would affect people on the ground. It would affect people in my constituency who would have to face the impacts of the cuts in the budget.
So you're not bothered whether it would increase jobs in Scotland? It's all about carbon emissions.
Look, we're not going to make up policy on the hoof like the SNP. Policy has got to be evidence-based, and you need to go through the impacts on both economic impacts and carbon emissions impacts, and look at reforming the tax so that we can boost traffic to our airports, but also pay appropriate heed to achieving our carbon emission targets.
Just to go back on this business of devolution, you approve of devolving the power to set APD, but you don't want it to be changed to different rates north and south of the border. Is that correct?
No, I think what first and foremost,
Well, you see, you don't want to see any difference between the regimes north and south of the border.
As I
It'd
said,
be okay to have it lower in Scotland.
No, as I said, what policy has got to be evidence-based. So we want to see an impact assessment on the effects of reducing levels of APD. We're certainly open to the arguments that the airport industry have put across, but we need to see the proper evidence in order to reach a position on that.
Okay, James Kelly from Labour. Thanks very much. It's 19 minutes to 9.
Now, hundreds